What's up, troopers? We got another TFT Mini. We're going to talk about Garrison. So, Garrison is one where it has, I'll say this has grown on me since the beginning of 2.6, where initially I was very, very anti prepared positions and like the keyword in general just sort of made my, it was sort of skin crawly to me, and so I didn't want any of my units anywhere near it. That said, I think that now that we've had more experience and there's been some more use cases that have evolved, I do think that it is finding its way into more and more lists. So when you think of Garrison, Mike, in terms of the list that you would put it into, like what's the first thing that you think of?
So I'm gonna make a hot take here. I
All
think
right.
that 100% of lists can put Garrison in it and feel okay about it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I think that this card is actually better than we assumed, and I think that the thing that is required for you to play this card effectively is the knowledge of how your list works and operates, particularly with reference to like where the POIs are in each setup and the terrain on the table. And I think if you are able to actually correctly place the unit that you're gonna target with Garrison, you can put this in any list.
Okay. I guess let me add a caveat to see if you agree with it. If there is not convenient line of sight blocking terrain that would block line of sight to somebody starting in your territory, would you still like that's obviously you're past the point of playing in your list, but would you cycle this one out if you didn't have good LOS blocking stuff on your side of the board?
Yes, but I might talk to my TO about that after the game.
That's fair. That's fair.
Frankly, I think we're at the point, particularly with the
The
new
area terrain rules.
area line of sight rules, that you should be able to find a place that is
Yeah.
relatively reasonable for you to put one unit in your army.
Yeah.
And I think like if you look at this card as my 6-man B1 unit that has no upgrades, is 38 points, just gets to start on the table and save a couple actions and has a dodge token and is completely unshootable because I put them someplace safe. Like that's fine. That's totally cool.
Yeah.
You can obviously do way wilder things with this card, but as a baseline, I think you can think of it like I get to save one unit a couple actions, and that's hunky dory.
I think that's good to think about is like is because you're basically talking about sort of the minimum utility of this card. And I think that it's also worth talking about the maximum utility, which is to say that with the advent of the super squad, all of a sudden one core unit getting prepared positions could be, in some cases, a core unit that is worth 170 points, that has a massive dice pool. And it's true that it does typically make it tougher to hide because it has so many minis, but hopefully you have scouted out your terrain and done the math before you decide to put that unit out in prepared positions. But in those situations, it can be huge, because like in the 6 act Yoda or Anakin list, as an example, having in those cases it would usually be the Ahsoka squad that is starting out there with prepared positions in such a way that this squad that wants to be getting into melee is sometimes like a move and a half beyond where they would typically be starting on. And that can be great. It also, also that unit will likely be able to, at the very least, shoot pretty much anybody on the board. And in especially that Ahsoka unit, it starts with a dodge, which means that it's going to start with it'll start with 2 dodges if you don't give it an order. And so its block is going to be turned on for like pretty much that entire round, probably. It can be pretty strong stuff, and so those are the lists that have the extra motivation to put Garrison in there. But I do think that there's an argument where if you really can't think of anything better, it may not always help you, but there are situations where it can help you no matter what the list is.
Yeah, I mean, we just recorded an episode on strafing run. Like, I would take this 100% of the time over strafing run.
I'd probably agree.
If Garrison wasn't already in there, I do think that the use cases for this, like the baseline use case, is like kind of okay, but like you pointed out with the super squads is pretty big. I think if you've got anything with guidance trooper on it. That goes for Lando in addition to Yoda.
Yeah.
This card becomes, I think, close to an auto include in your deck, personally. And I think the Super Squad thing, it depends. You got to be really sure that that Super Squad is not just going to get like chopped into a billion pieces because you put it into prepared positions. And it is a lot harder to hide super squads. The clone one, obviously, like you're not going to find a more defensible unit in the game.
Yeah.
I'm less like, I'm still like pretty down on shore troopers, and they have prepared positions natively, just because like it's even with just red saves in a super squad in prepared positions, that dodge token really doesn't get you very far.
No.
Like you can't just rely on that dodge token to like carry the day.
For sure.
And because of note, you cannot put the sweet new dug in training upgrade on a unit that you're going to target with this card, um, like in advance. So
Yeah, exactly. I will say that other good potential targets for this are a any kind of a short range squad. So that would be like a snow flamer or B2, where typically a B2 would have to be empowered by a crowd droid in order to get farther out on the field. But this is a way to get them on the field early in a place where they can actually maybe be threatening on round one if your opponent is like getting really aggro against you. And so like having a B2 behind a building to the point where they could actually move, shoot an opponent that's getting too close, that can actually change their deployment strategy quite a bit, while you're remaining in complete safety. So you can
and
definitely do some cool things with it. But it's worth repeating that if you are in a position where you have the luxury of being able to just like look at your garrison that's already been flipped or that's about to be flipped, and that your objectives are all fine, and you're making the decision whether or not you're going to flip to or from garrison, look look at the primary that you think you're going to play and look at the board, and just be sure that there's actually going to be a place where you would want to slap down the unit that you're thinking about, because otherwise you may get into the beginning of the game and do the thing that I've had to do a couple times, where I look at my garrison card and I look at my units in the map and I'm like, actually, I'm not going to give anybody prepared positions.
and it's good to keep in mind that you can always choose not to like
Yeah, exactly.
prepared position them. The other thing is that you're talking about units like B2s. Like this card gets a lot better once you put it in play next to a ruthless effect, next to a new ways to motivate them. General Grievous is, I think it's this 2 pip that is
Yep, that's
like
right.
similar to new ways. All of those effects are like all of a sudden you're started 9 inches closer to your opponent, plus you're getting an extra move. Like you're probably just going to be able to YOLO it as quickly as possible if you have any of those effects on the table. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you got anything else on Garrison, Mike?
I think like kind of going back to the baseline structure. I think this is I'm like pretty big on clone infantry with electro binoculars these days. Prepared positions allows you to put your naked clone infantry on the board and hand out 2 aim tokens in addition to the dodge token that they get. Like they become like a super battery all of a sudden.
Yeah,
And they don't need to do damage. They can sit behind a building and do that. So
I think you can summarize that as saying that not that Garrison represents action economy, because normally they have to move, and so it takes that requirement away from their first action, that activation, and in certain lists that can make your opening play be that clones with binoculars, which is still probably an opening play that one person in the world does.
But man,
uh, or
we'll
or like,
see. We're slowly
yeah,
turning.
maybe you'll start a wave of clone electro binoculars. But it is action economy, and action economy wins games, and every little bit counts. So it's definitely worth keeping that in mind when it comes to the utility of this card. All right. Well, thank you for that. We're going to see you in the next TFT Mini. Thank you to Jacob Camp. If you like what we're doing, then please do consider checking out the Patreon. And thanks for watching.